Today, on Pat's Car Garage, I've been made aware of a rather surprising fact I'd like to share with you. Your off-roading skills are directly proportional to the quantity of extra lights your Jeep has installed. Now that I'm aware of this forbidden knowledge, I obviously have to act upon it. So, I'll install these really cool Hella Comet 450 driving lights. It might be an odd choice to fit halogen driving lights when there are so many LED options nowadays, but the fact of the matter is, cheap LED lights are honestly not really worth it, and good ones are quite expensive. The halogens fit nicely in the middle. They're pretty inexpensive, and though they are not as bright as good LED lights, their superior optics relative to the cheap LED options make them a very compelling alternative. An added bonus is they won't have any ice buildup in winter, which is a problem I've experienced with my LED headlights. So I figured it'd be worth mentioning how the fog lights and the bumper lights are going to be wired. So down here to the left is the fog light relay. And the way it's wired up is it grabs the relay feed from the fuse box that I've added up here, and it's grounded through the fog light switch. So there's a wire in that pile of mess right there. This is what Chrysler calls the 100-way instrument panel connector, but out of there you can fish out the connection that goes back to the to the switch on the side of the dashboard. Power for the fog lights also comes from the fuse box, and then it just gets fed through the relay and out to the fog lights in front. The bumper lights, I'm actually going to wire them up in the exact same way. So if you're wondering what this here is, this is the automatic daytime, not the daytime running lights, this is the automatic headlight module. So this here reads the sensor value, and when you have your switch in auto position, this turns on the low beams when it's dark and turns them back off when it's bright. This fuse box is powered from the engine fuse box through this thick 10 gauge wire here. It's fused in the engine bay, so this is all fused, so everything's nice and protected. And there's a hole through the firewall. It's got a little rubber grommet, like it has a pile of wires going through that grommet. You can poke a new hole in that rubber grommet and feed some new wires in. So out in the front, you should know that even on pre-facelift models, the fog lights mount right up. There's already like pre-drilled holes in the cross member. It looks like they wanted to put them here, but I know that on pre-facelift models they put the fog lights up here originally. But yeah, so there's already holes pre-drilled for this. You can tap them, and they will hold decently well enough. There's no nuts on the back of these here. It's just the bolts going through. But yeah, so the wiring, I have a little ground that I've made myself right over here. So this grounds the fog lights and the driving lights. And then yeah, there's some plugs for the fog lights hidden behind the bumper support. And then these are going to be the plugs for the driving lights. They're going to come through the grill, and once they're plugged in, I'm going to push them back through the grill, and then the wire shouldn't be too visible. But that's what it's going to look like. And of course we have the same thing on the other side. If you're wondering what thickness of wire to use, I used 14 gauge from the fuse box, or from the relays, 14 gauge all the way here. And then here I split into two 16 gauge wires going to each of the lights. I don't want to bolt the lights directly to the bumper, since how? Instead, I'm making some L-shaped brackets that I'll weld to the bumper support. I'll tack the brackets on, fit the bumper back over the bumper support, drill out the holes where the lights will mount so I can trim the bracket to only be as long as needed, and then I'll remove the bumper again and finish welding the brackets to the bumper support. Now I just need to trim the bracket and cut the vertical piece off to have a flat surface into which I can drill a hole. Splash some paint on there and tack weld a nut into which I can screw the light mount to.
We can skip ahead now to the fun part, seeing how everything goes together. One of the reasons I chose these specific lights is they have that old school look which fits the rest of the car. I don't think any LED design could achieve that. Though these particular lights claim to have a driving beam pattern, I'd consider them more of a spot pattern. The driving beam pattern is closer to that of low beams. These are narrower and go quite a lot further than that. This is exactly what I've been looking for. The combination of these plus the fog lights make for great illumination. Let's do a quick on-off comparison. In the first picture I have the low beams on only. Second picture is low beams with the fog lights and spotlights. Both pictures are done with the same exposure, so the differences in brightness are real. I've also set the camera up to closely resemble what I was actually seeing. The difference is pretty substantial. I hadn't realized it at the time, but the spotlights weren't aimed right. The left is too low and the right is too high. I'll have to make another comparison video with everything aimed correctly. Overall, I'm quite pleased with the results. As always, thank you for watching this illuminating video, and I'll see you next time.